Well, my name's John Fursman. I'm 67 years of age. By trade, I'm an industrial chemist. So it's a natural association with brewing and whisky distilling. I've just retired, having sold my business about 2 years ago. And now I'm sort of partly enjoying my retirement and partly getting involved in lots of other pursuits, like travelling all around the world and looking at different whiskies, and particularly going to Scotland every year and around doing some whisky tours. Back in 2012, I was looking to invest in different areas, and one particular subject I was interested in was malt whisky. And I received an email from VCL at the time, which I read, and it prompted me to look into the whole subject a lot more. And it became clear that the percentage gain monetarily from investing in whisky casks was a lot more than at the time putting your money in the building society. Because at the time the interest rates were something like about less than 1%. And the projected interest gain from whisky casks seemed to be quite a bit more, certainly from the case histories. So that was that. So after looking into it, I decided to take the plunge and buy a cask. And at the time, once I initially inquired, Stuart Tom called me, and we had various discussions on the phone about it, and he was able to offer quite a lot of advice. And I took the plunge and bought a Kalila cask at the time. So that was 2006. The whisky was distilled in. I've always been interested in whisky since the age of about 30. Before that, I wasn't really a whisky fan, to be honest, and my father was, and he was a big fan of Speyside whiskies, and he had a whole array of the usual range of Glenfiddich and Glenlivet and Cardew and so on. And I started getting the taste of it. My brother as well, and I started buying bottles of mainly Speyside whiskey then. But then as the years went by, my taste changed rather, and I started getting into the more heavily peated whiskies at that point. And I think probably now they're my favourite, really. So it's but the reason why I wanted to get involved in investing in was I thought that it was always a good idea to spread your investments, really. Not stick into one area. So I thought whisky seemed an ideal area to go into. And the other thing was the actual article that I read that VCL produced at the time one of the articles was talking about India. And I realised that I didn't realise that the market was so big in India. They were such big fans of whisky, but apparently at the time and now the import duties and the tax of getting whisky into India is massive, and it was projected at that time that the UK government would manage to negotiate some good trade deals with India. So I thought getting into buying a whisky from a distiller that was heavily into India, and all the big ones, Diageo and Martini, Ricard, and so on, are all really into India, aren't they? And that was a good bet. So I thought buying a Kalila cask, which Stuart suggested, was probably the good move. Well, I think the other investments I have are mainly in the pension funds, the stock market, and so on. Financial investments, really, and which you monitor on a regular basis, and you rely on an advisor to help you along, quite often, really. I mean, the buying a cask of whiskey was actually a very easy experience. I mean, all I had to do was decide, what brand I was looking for, and then I contacted VCL and was sent a list of, within my budget, a number of options, and then I had to make a decision really what to go for. And I think from that point onwards, it was quite easy. Once I'd made my mind up, it was a very simple process. You just had to basically fill in a form and transfer the funds, and that was it. You got your certificate, really. So yeah, it was a very simple process, the whole thing. I would certainly, if anybody else wanted to do this, I would certainly recommend that they take the plunge. Well, I think that the first thing is to look into it. Do your groundwork, read around the subject, and I think it helps if you do have an interest in whiskey. I mean, there's lots of people who buy whiskey casks, invest in bottles of whiskey that don't know anything about whiskey at all. So it's not a kind of, I don't think it's prohibitive. I don't think you have to be a whiskey connoisseur to invest. But I think I think it's a question really of saying it's a very easy thing to do, and all the projected gains money-wise for whiskey casks all look very good, and I'd certainly have no hesitation to recommend it.